Hello Year 12 and welcome to our first video here for our 9th unit on triangles, most specifically right angle triangles, and today we're going to look at Pythagoras' theorem. Hopefully you remember some of this, but we'll go over it again. Now, first of all, right angle triangle, the longest side is called the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse, it's opposite the right angle, right? That means it's not connected to the right angle. Okay, it's the longest side, it's opposite the right angle, and it's called the hypotenuse. Okay, so here's a triangle. You can see here the right angle. So it's a right angle triangle. And the side that isn't connected, these two sides are both what we call adjacent to the right angle. So these two sides, not the hypotenuse, the other one. If I draw an arrow through that right angle, it points to the hypotenuse. Here's another one. Some people like to think hypotenuse means like the diagonal, but, well, that can be a little bit problematic. So here we see the hypotenuse is this side here. It's certainly the longest one. It's opposite the right angle. Again, here's the right angle. Opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. One more. Oh. There's the right angle. That's the hypotenuse. Okay, so we need to identify the hypotenuse when we're dealing with Pythagoras' theorem. Okay, it's important. So, if I square the short sides, right, that means multiply them by themselves. So I take the two short sides, I multiply them by themselves, I square them, add them together. Right, that sum, when I square them and add them together, is going to be the same as the square of the hypotenuse. There's a lot of language there. Better off with an example. And here is a formula, if you like. C squared, where C represents the hypotenuse, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum, right, means adding together, of the other two squares. Right. So, how do we do this? How do we find the length of the hypotenuse? Well, we square one of the short sides, we square the other short side, add them together, take the square root, and that will tell us how long the hypotenuse is, if I have the two short sides. So here we go. Here's an example. There's a right angle triangle. I've got two of the short sides. This is the hypotenuse here. It's opposite the right angle. It's the longest side. So I want to calculate the length. I need to square the 8 and square the 6. That means 8 times 8 plus 6 times 6. Now, 8 times 8 is 64 and 6 times 6 is 36. And you add those together, you get 100. You can do that in your calculator if you like. So c squared equals 100. Common mistake that people make here is they leave the answer there. They forgot to take the square root. Right, they've got a number, that's good, 100, but pretty obviously 100 doesn't look like it fits in that triangle. Okay, we've got to take the square root. So the square root of 100 is equal to 10. So this side here, 10 centimeters long. Right, so that's using Pythagoras' theorem to find the length of the hypotenuse. Sometimes, however, we need to find a short side. We've got the hypotenuse on one of the other sides, but I want to find the length of the unknown short side. So what we do is we square the hypotenuse, then we square the other short side, and take that away from the square of the hypotenuse. So we square the two sides and we subtract them. Then we take the square root. So to find the hypotenuse, the longest side, we add the squares and take the square root. To find the length of a short side, we square the two sides and then subtract them before taking the square root. Here's an example. I want to find a shorter side. So, hypotenuse opposite the right angle is this one here. I've got the 3, I've got the hypotenuse. I want to find this other side. It's labelled as x. So, we square the 5, we square the 3, and take 9, that's 3 squared, away from 25. That's 5 squared. So, 25 minus 9 is 16. Then I have to take the square root of that side. The square root of 16 is 4. So this other side here is 4. And that's a combination of sides that's really common with Pythagoras' theorem. 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Good to remember. Handy for practical applications. So, that's it for Pythagoras' theorem. Okay. We found the hypotenuse, right? We know what the hypotenuse is. We found that, and we also used the hypotenuse to find the length of a short side. We found the hypotenuse by squaring the two sides, adding them together, and taking the square root. We find the length of a short side by squaring the other two sides, subtracting them now, because I need a smaller answer, subtracting them, and then taking the square root. Okay, that's Pythagoras' theorem. Our next video is on the tangent ratio, on tan. But if you've got any questions about Pythagoras, make sure that you write them down so you don't forget, and ask me in class. Okay, thanks very much. See you then.